Welcome to a new episode of How to Argue Like a Decent Human Being. In episodes starting with the number 4, we will learn about informal logical fallacies. In this episode, I will introduce you to an informal fallacy called the naturalistic fallacy, also known as an appeal to nature. Although some people distinguish between the naturalistic fallacy and an appeal to nature, for the purposes of this video, I will assume their equivalence. In essence, the naturalistic fallacy is committed when someone argues in the following way. Premise: X is natural. Conclusion: X is good or right. Or, premise: X is unnatural. Conclusion: X is bad or wrong. Both these arguments presuppose hidden premises, namely, if A is natural, then A is good or right. And if A is unnatural, then A is bad or wrong. But you might be thinking, wait a second, wouldn't adding the hidden premises make the argument valid? Because the argument would then be of the form, if X, then Y, X, therefore Y. Yes, it would, but that doesn't mean that the argument would be sound, as the truth of the hidden premises is highly questionable. This is why the naturalistic fallacy is an informal fallacy, meaning that its fallaciousness doesn't stem from its form, but rather from its content. Why are the hidden premises questionable? The primary reason why these premises are questionable is because the terms employed in them are poorly defined. What does it mean for X to be natural or unnatural? What makes X good or bad? What is right or wrong? Let's take naturalness as an illustrative example. Let's say that whatever is observed in nature is deemed natural, and whatever is not observed is unnatural. But then the questions arise: who is this observer that represents humanity? Is there a limit to their epistemic prowess? Even if we postulate an omniscient being as our chosen observer, so long as we lack access to their knowledge, this leaves us in no better position than we started. And what's worse, we would be burdened with the additional onus of proving the existence of such an entity. At the opposite end of the scale, what if our observer was ignorant? Then almost everything would be unnatural because they have never observed it firsthand. What if each of us had to be our own observer? Just imagine the relativistic hellscape that would ensue. Another glaring issue with the hidden premises concerns the logical progression from what is to what ought to be. The antecedent of the premises is an empirical statement about this world, which could be true or false, while the consequent is a moral statement about what people ought to do or ought not to do. In logic, there exists a clear distinction between what is the case and what ought to be the case, such that one cannot be deduced from the other. Otherwise, every immoral act would be pardoned the instant it happens, in which case we might as well do away with morality altogether, or conversely, every morally good act would actually happen all the time. Now, let's have a look at some examples of arguments that commit the naturalistic fallacy. Argument 1. Premise 1. My child was caught bullying another child. Premise 2. Bullying among kids is common. Conclusion: my child should not be punished. This argument maintains that because bullying happens, it ought to be morally permissible. As stated before, this logic would render every act that has ever been observed acceptable. Argument 2. Premise 1. On average, men are physically stronger than women. Premise 2. In general, construction jobs require physical strength. Conclusion: women should not work in construction. This argument maintains that because women are statistically weaker than men are, no woman should have a construction job. However, there are definitely some strong women who are capable of working in construction, and there are many factors other than physical strength that determine an individual's employability. Argument 3. Premise: pedophilia is unnatural. Conclusion: pedophilia is wrong. Although I agree with the conclusion of this argument, the premise is questionable. First of all, what does unnatural mean? Does it mean that it is not observed in nature? If so, the premise is evidently false, as there are indeed many pedophiles in this world. Perhaps it means that pedophilia is disgusting. Disgusting though it may be, something being disgusting to someone is often not a good enough reason for it to be morally wrong. Is feces wrong? What if I was disgusted by someone's existence? Are they wrong for being alive? Argument 4. Premise: natural products are healthier than artificial products. Conclusion: I should use this organic herbal ointment for my rash rather than this lab-made ointment prescribed by my doctor. In this argument, natural seems to be defined as the opposite of artificial. Though this is a very common conception of nature, it presumes that humans are not part of nature or that humans somehow transcend nature. It is also commonly believed that things found in nature are beneficial for our health and safer than artificial products. However, there are countless examples of things found in nature that are harmful or even lethal to us. Moreover, it needs to be noted that a lot of corporations label their products as natural as a marketing tactic to appeal to a certain demographic. And unless your country has a law that defines natural unambiguously, those products may not even contain any natural ingredients, and most likely, those products are no more beneficial than any other alternative available. This is the end of this episode. The next time you present or evaluate an argument, remember to check for the naturalistic fallacy.